Hey YouTube, MeefMagnet here. Welcome to Guide 4 of our AE series. We kind of wanted to do a little bit of a spotlight on crafting terminals, just because you can actually do some really cool stuff with it. We'll go through some of the stuff like sorting. We'll go through NEI sinks, cell materials. We'll just show some of the sorting functions too. Let's get right to it. As soon as you open this up, you're going to notice that there's a few buttons on the left-hand side of these terminals. Let's go through and we'll just actually take a look at these. So our sort by is the first button up here. Right now it's set to item name. So these will go through and sort everything A to Z all the way on down the line. We can change this to sort by number of items. And a lot of times this is typically what Annieline and I are staring at. We like to see what our top items are in our ME network. We go through, and once some of the crafting materials we have start to creep way up there and make it to the top of this list, we'll go back through and we'll compress them. Say, for instance, sand here, we can actually compress that in our set of mods and free up some more of our storage. So this sort by mod pack, this does get useful, especially if you've got stuff at the top or the bottom of the list. For instance, I deal with a lot of AE stuff, so we switch this back. This is our sort order button. We'll go over that a little bit more in a second here. AE2 actually shows up right away here for me, so I do every once in a while use this. But it just goes through all the mod packs from A to Z, and you can switch it vice versa. Inventory tweaks, I don't ever use this. This is all done based on what the config files crap out. This is a mess to me. I don't ever use it. So this next button here, we'll go over this a little bit. This is your stored and craftable items. So this will show both. So if there were craftable recipes hanging out in here, which we do not have yet, they would show up in here as well. What we can do is we can switch this straight to stored items. So this only shows stuff that is stored. This is no craftable items, period. If we click this one more time, this would be where all our craftable recipes show up. So once we actually have crafting processors, Mac chambers, and ME interfaces, and actual patterns in here, you can go through and actually pick stuff out and actually craft it as you want, just straight out of the terminal. That'll actually go over in a few guides in the very near future here, once we go over some of the crafting processor stuff. Let's take a look at our sort order button. So once we switch this to items, we can sort it back and forth, to top items to low stuff. This is useful, I guess, the way we use this, as these low items. A lot of times when we have mob spawners, we get stuff like bowls with 40 different enchantments coming in. So they're just sucking up random types in your ME network. What we'll do is we go through here, switch it over to one, and we kind of go through some of that enchanted equipment that's just sucking up space. We'll either disenchant it or void it or nullify it, whatever. But just remember, this is a handy tool if you actually want to see what kind of low items are just sitting in your network taking up space. This next set of buttons, and it took us a while to figure this out, because it's awesome. What you can do is you can set this to, let's set it to standard mode first, or standard search. Once you're typing in here, if you actually go out of this terminal and walk back up, you'll see that your cursor isn't actually up here. So you've got free range to click on NEI, whatever you want to do. You don't have to worry about anything being typed into here. So if you're just looking at the top of your list, if we want to change this over, let's go to auto search. You see your cursor kind of shows up at the top here. If you actually walk away and then let's go back in, we're ready to type. So the cool thing about this is when it's set to auto search, it'll remember that. So you can walk away, you can come back. It won't save your actual whatever you typed in there. But you can actually just walk up and just start typing right away. Whereas standard search mode, you can't actually do that yet. Physically, you have to click on the box and then start typing. This NEI sync mode, this is the same as your standard. So if we walk away from here, that cursor still isn't there. Cool thing about this is that, let's say we're looking for glass cable. We just type it in there. So we see it in the ME network, but we also see it in NEI. So this is kind of cool because we can take a look at some of the variants that are out there. Let's say we wanted to make let's say a purple glass cable. We can actually click on that. Oh, so there's the recipe. Purple dye and then just a bunch of cables. So that is there, and this is one of the greatest functions of this whole crafting terminal. My favorite is actually the auto search, or the auto search with NEI synchronized in it. So you can literally walk away, walk back up, and then you're just ready to type. So that is actually my favorite part of these crafting terminals. What you can do when you actually have these in NEI synchronized mode is you can actually type in the name of the mod pack, and a lot of this stuff will actually come up right away. So all of AE2's stuff. Now, granted, there is some other things in here, but if you type in the whole thing, you get mostly just the mod pack. And you can do that with pretty much everything. So that is there. Try and utilize that. It's fully functioned and it works really, really well. This last button here, and this is kind of confusing because I don't ever mess with GUI settings. It's literally, it changes the way this looks. So right now, it says it's actually in tall centered. It's not. This is actually small centered. If you actually want to use this, you actually have to go in and you have to change your GUI settings. So I can do that now just to show this. I always play in auto because I don't change it. The only thing I ever do when I set up a new mod pack game is actually change the graphics and render chunks frames per second. If we switch this over, I'll just switch it into normal, and then we can go back in here. You'll see that this is the small center terminal. If we actually switch this over, this is our tall center terminal. I think since I don't ever change it, it's actually condensed a little more than the actual small, so you're only seeing the 3 high, and that's just how I play. If you really want to mess with this stuff, you can change your GUI settings, but that's all there. So I'm gonna change these back because I'm a creature of habit, and there we go. So there's one more thing I actually wanted to go over before we switch into view cells, which is actually pretty cool, is the fact that you can go up here. If you see this hammer up in the right corner, we have crafting status. This is important for when we get into crafting processors and just crafting computers in general. What you can do is you can click on this. You can actually see what is being crafted right now. So if there is an active job in one of the crafting computers, you'll be able to see it straight from these ME terminals. You won't have to physically walk up to one of the crafting processors. You literally just click this hammer and you can see every process that's actually being done. So keep that in mind. That gets to be very useful when you're crafting very, very large, complicated recipes. You could see exactly what's being crafted right from your crafting terminal. The one other thing I wanted to get into real quick here was view cells, because this is one of probably the most handy features of crafting terminals, and we totally do not utilize it enough. If we take a look here, I'm just going to pull those out. What we want here is these view cells. So these are pretty much blank cells that we can go through and actually we can use these to sort things straight out of the crafting terminals. For instance, I already set this one up. What I wanted this to do is I wanted to set this so only these particular ingots showed up. There are some more in here, but they are not in the ME network. So that's why you're not seeing everything. I'll show you this in just a second here. The recipes for these, this is actually what these cost. They're pretty simple, not very expensive, but can be very useful early game. So that is a view cell. In order to actually work with the view cell, you need one of these. This is a cell workbench. You're going to use this later on. This is handy to have. You kind of just throw it off in a corner or keep it in the ME network and just use it when you need to. You will actually need to use these though if you want to partition cells. So these are pretty simple to make. Just a couple wool on the top, calculation processor, a chest, and then some iron. And that'll get you a cell workbench. So let's take a look at what's actually going on inside here. This first one, I've got this set to sort so that our ME glass cable is the only thing in here. So once you shift click these in, these view cells go up into its internal inventory. You can actually start adding items in just by a click. It'll only do one, so it won't do a stack. It just shows you what's in there. If you click these again, that'll go away. We can get into some of the settings and stuff on here, but I think just for this set of videos, I'm going to ignore some of this stuff until I do another video on how to partition cells. Just know that this will clear all the settings out of this actual cell, and that's pretty much all you need to know for this particular set of videos. What we can do is I'll pull some of these out of there. We'll take a look and see what's in this view cell. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of ingots here. You'll notice that there are a bunch of ingots that weren't actually in the ME network. They don't show up. So that's what's going on here. And I think this is just a blank cell. Yep. So that's all that is. Once we've actually got these configured, we can go over to any one of these crafting terminals, and let's just throw this one in here. This one should have been our glass fiber. So what we can do is we can actually put that into the crafting terminals internal inventory and walk up, and this will show us a glass cable every single time we walk up here. Now we can also do multiples of these, so it's our glass cable and our ingots. So how do we actually utilize this? Let's say you've got just a bunch of tables, or you're trying to craft, say, like a bunch of gears. Well, you don't want to sit there and type out iron gear every single time. You just throw your view cells in here, and your iron shows up in the top 5. You can condense this even more to strictly even just iron or whatever you need without actually having to type it in every single time. You can set these up across different terminals so that, okay, this is our working terminal for whatever. Let's see, I need a bunch of glass cable for this particular recipe. So we walk up here, it's ready to go all the time. So we haven't utilized these near enough, and early game I wish we would have, because we do a whole lot of mundane crafting, the same stuff over and over. Yeah, it would be nice to kind of organize that and have it available as soon as we walk up to the terminal. So that's about it for this video. I think in the next couple videos, we'll probably go over some of the more complicated machines in AE2, export buses and import buses and things along those lines. So check those videos out. Again, this is MeefMagnet. Talk to you guys later.